The wow signal, a whisper from the stars. On a warm night in August of 1977, an astronomer named Jerry Ehman sat in front of a computer printout at Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope. The Big Ear was an enormous structure, stretching across a field, its giant metal surface turned upward to listen to the heavens. Day and night, it scanned the skies, searching for faint signals from beyond our world, signals that might reveal something extraordinary. As Jerry looked over the data that evening, one particular signal caught his eye. It was strong. It was unusual, and it lasted for 72 seconds, long enough to convince him it was not random noise. He was so struck by what he saw that he circled the numbers on the printout and wrote a single word in the margin. Wow! That one word would forever give the signal its name. The wow signal. A mysterious whisper from the stars captured only once, never heard again. For more than 4 decades, scientists, skeptics, and dreamers have asked the same question. What was it? A trick of nature? A secret of the cosmos? Or was it, as some believe, the first evidence that we are not alone? The story of the wow signal begins with a dream older than history. For as long as humanity has looked at the stars, we have wondered, are we alone in the universe? Ancient civilizations told stories of gods and visitors from the sky. Philosophers debated whether other worlds might exist. In the 20th century, as technology leapt forward, this old question became a scientific one. Astronomers built powerful telescopes. Engineers launched satellites, and a new field of research emerged. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The Big Ear radio telescope in Ohio was part of this search. Instead of looking for light through a lens, it listened for radio waves. The universe is full of natural radio signals. Stars, galaxies, quasars, even planets all give off radiation. But among this cosmic noise, scientists hoped they might find something artificial. A transmission. A beacon. A sign that somewhere out in the darkness, another intelligence was reaching out. On August 15, 1977, that hope seemed to come true. The Big Ear recorded a signal unlike anything the astronomers had seen before. It was narrowband, meaning it came in on a single frequency rather than across a broad spectrum. Exactly the kind of signal you would expect from an artificial transmitter. It was incredibly strong, far stronger than the background noise, and it lasted just long enough to suggest it was not a glitch. Jerry Ehman's excitement was immediate. He scribbled "wow" in the margin, never guessing that this small note would become a legend. But even in that moment, he remained cautious. Jerry himself later said he was reluctant to declare it evidence of extraterrestrials. Science demands skepticism, and yet the signal remained unexplained. Where did it come from? The Big Ear's listening beam was pointed toward the constellation Sagittarius, near a group of stars known as Chi Sagittarii. The signal appeared once in one scan of the sky and then vanished. When the telescope passed over the same spot again just minutes later, nothing was there. Later searches turned up nothing. In more than 40 years since, the wow signal has never been heard again. Scientists proposed many theories. Some thought it might have been a signal from Earth, bouncing off space debris and back to the telescope. Others suggested it could have been a natural emission from a comet. Still others argued it was simply a coincidence of noise, an anomaly that only looked artificial. But none of these explanations ever fit perfectly. The comet theory, for instance, was tested years later and found wanting. The specific frequency of the wow signal, 420 megahertz, is the frequency of hydrogen, the most common element in the universe. It is also a frequency that natural sources do not easily mimic. For decades, SETI researchers have argued that if an alien civilization were to choose a universal channel for communication, the hydrogen line would be the obvious choice. It is the cosmic equivalent of a calling card, a frequency that says, "This is science, this is intention." And that is what makes the wow signal so haunting. It was not random, it was not broad, it was precise, narrow, strong, and then gone. Imagine the feeling of being one of the scientists in that room, to see just for a moment what might be the first contact with another intelligence, and then to have it slip away forever. The wow signal is both inspiring and frustrating. Inspiring, because it suggests that perhaps we did glimpse the answer to humanity's oldest question. Frustrating, because without a repeat, without a recording, without evidence beyond the printout, we cannot know for sure. Some believe it was a message, deliberately aimed at Earth, caught only once by chance. Others think it may have been a stray signal, a transmission never meant for us, passing through our corner of the galaxy at just the right time. And some believe it was simply an accident of nature, a mystery that can be explained if only we had more data. But the truth is, we may never know. The wow signal is like a single note of music heard in the distance, one haunting sound echoing through the silence of the cosmos, leaving us to wonder who played it and why. And so the legend continues. Scientists still search the skies. New telescopes listen day and night, waiting for another signal, another whisper, another chance. But so far the wow signal stands alone, a mystery suspended in time. As you think of it now, picture the vastness of space. Imagine stars scattered like grains of sand across an infinite beach. Imagine planets circling those stars, some barren, some with oceans and skies, some perhaps with life. Somewhere out there in the endless night, intelligence may exist. Perhaps it is watching us, perhaps it is calling, perhaps it has already spoken. And perhaps in 1977, for 72 seconds, we listened. The wow signal is a reminder that the universe is full of questions we cannot yet answer. It tells us that even with all our technology, all our science, we are still children looking up at the stars, wondering who else might be out there. It invites us to dream, to imagine, to keep searching. And as the silence of the cosmos stretches on, we are left with the same question that Jerry Ehman must have asked that night. What was it? Who sent it? And will we ever hear it again? For now, it remains just one word, written in the margin of a printout more than 40 years ago. A single moment in time. A whisper from the stars. A mystery without an answer. The wow signal. The wow signal was more than just numbers on a page. It was hope, it was possibility, and it was mystery. But to truly understand why it has haunted astronomers and dreamers for decades, we need to step back and look at the bigger picture, the search for life in the universe. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the night sky and wondered who else might be out there. Ancient cultures told stories of gods living among the stars. Philosophers debated the possibility of other worlds. And then, in the 20th century, as radio and space technology advanced, that old question became something we could finally try to answer with science. In the 1960s, scientists began to ask, if other civilizations exist, how would they communicate? Light travels fast, but radio waves are easier to produce and easier to detect across vast distances. If an alien civilization wanted to send out a beacon, a simple radio signal would be the most efficient way. And so SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, was born. Astronomers built giant radio telescopes, scanning the heavens, listening for something that stood out from the natural background noise of the universe. The Big Ear Telescope, sitting quietly in Ohio, was part of that mission. Its structure was simple, but its purpose was extraordinary: to listen patiently and constantly for a sign. And on that summer night in 1977, it caught something unlike anything before or since. The wow signal lasted 72 seconds. Not a second more, not a second less. It rose in intensity, peaked, then faded, just as you would expect from a signal moving across the narrow beam of a radio telescope. It behaved exactly like a genuine transmission. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, close to the center of our galaxy, a place filled with stars, planets, and the possibility of life. And then, silence. Scientists rushed to check the data. They searched the same patch of sky again and again, hoping to find a repeat. They scanned nearby regions, they monitored the frequency, they tested their equipment, but the signal never returned. In all the years since, despite countless hours of listening with far more advanced technology, nothing like it has ever been detected again. This is part of what makes the wow signal so difficult. In science, repetition is key. One measurement is interesting. Two are compelling. But without repetition, without confirmation, a discovery remains uncertain. The wow signal was a single note of music, played once and never repeated. So what was it? Explanations have been offered and dismissed, one after another. Some argued it was a terrestrial signal, a broadcast from Earth that somehow bounced off space debris and back to the telescope. But if that were true, why has it never happened again? Others suggested it was a natural radio emission from a comet or asteroid passing through the region. Years later, tests showed that comets did not emit signals at the WOW frequency. The frequency itself is part of the mystery. The signal was detected at 1420 megahertz, the natural emission frequency of hydrogen. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, the building block of stars and galaxies. Scientists had long believed that if an alien civilization wanted to send a message, they might choose that frequency, the so-called hydrogen line, as a universal calling card. The fact that the WOW signal appeared exactly there made it all the more tantalizing. And yet, skeptics remind us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. They point out that space is vast, filled with noise, and sometimes anomalies appear that fool us into thinking they are significant. They argue that without a repeat, without more data, the WOW signal cannot be claimed as proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. But for many, the WOW signal is not about proof. It is about possibility. It is about the idea that for 72 seconds, we may have heard a voice from the stars. Imagine for a moment what that would mean. Imagine another civilization, perhaps thousands or millions of years ahead of us in technology, sending out a signal across the galaxy. Perhaps it was deliberate, a beacon meant to say, "You are not alone." Perhaps it was accidental, the byproduct of their own communication systems, spilling out into space for us to catch by chance. Either way, the thought is humbling. It reminds us that we are just one small species on one small planet, listening into the dark, hoping someone else is out there. The WOW signal has also inspired comparisons to other mysteries of space. In 2007, astronomers detected what they called fast radio bursts, powerful flashes of radio energy from distant galaxies. Some last only milliseconds, yet they release more energy than entire stars produce in days. At first, some thought these bursts might be artificial, like the WOW signal. Later studies suggested natural causes, like collapsing stars or magnetic events. But the truth remains uncertain. The difference is that fast radio bursts have been repeated. We have recorded many of them. The WOW signal, by contrast, has never been repeated. It stands alone, unique, and haunting. For Jerry Ehman, the man who discovered it, the signal was both exciting and frustrating. Exciting because it was the strongest candidate for alien communication ever found. Frustrating because without more evidence, he could never claim it was real. Until the end of his career, Ehman remained cautious. He never declared it proof, but he also never dismissed its significance. He knew it might forever remain an unsolved question, and that perhaps is the beauty of the WOW signal. It sits on the boundary between science and imagination, between certainty and mystery. It is a reminder that even in an age of satellites and space probes, the universe is still filled with unknowns. As you think of it now, picture the vastness of the cosmos. Picture the Milky Way galaxy, a swirling sea of hundreds of billions of stars. Around many of those stars are planets, some barren, some perhaps with oceans and skies, some maybe even with life. The WOW signal came from out there, from somewhere in that endless ocean of stars. It lasted just over a minute, then was gone, leaving only questions. And so we continue to listen. New telescopes are being built. The Square Kilometer Array, the largest radio observatory ever constructed, will search the skies with far greater sensitivity than Big Ear ever could. Scientists hope that one day, another signal will come, stronger, longer, undeniable. And perhaps when it does, we will finally know the truth. But until then, the WOW signal remains a story we tell, a story of curiosity, of patience, of wonder. It is the story of humanity listening into the void, and the void whispering back just once. Close your eyes now and imagine yourself lying beneath the stars. Above you, the sky stretches forever. Each point of light is a sun with worlds of its own. Somewhere among them, perhaps, is a civilization asking the same question we ask. Are we alone? Perhaps they, too, have built telescopes, listening, waiting. And perhaps on that night in 1977, for 72 seconds, two civilizations heard each other. The WOW signal is more than data. It is a reminder of the infinite, a mystery that inspires us to keep searching, a whisper from the stars that says, keep listening. And maybe, just maybe, someday we will hear the answer.